They say revenge is a dish best served cold. In my case, it took 10 years of careful preparation, and when I finally lit the fuse, I did it with a smile and a ballpoint pen. My name is Poppy, and I've spent most of my adult life being the family fixer. While my sister Edith married rich and lived in her gated community, I was the one who kept our ancestral home from crumbling. New roof, I paid for it. Septic system failure, my credit card. Termite infestation, you guessed it, all me. "We're so blessed to have such a practical daughter," my mother would say, as if being practical was a consolation prize for not being Edith. The day they asked me to come to the house for a family meeting, I knew something was up. Edith's Mercedes was already in the driveway, looking out of place next to my sensible Honda. Her husband Blake's Range Rover took up half the street. Inside, they were all seated in the living room, the same room where I'd spent countless weekends replacing rotting floorboards. My mother Victoria perched on her favourite armchair, while my father Richard stood by the fireplace holding a manila envelope. "Darling, we have wonderful news," my mother beamed. "We're selling the house." I kept my face neutral, even as my stomach dropped. "Oh?" "The market's perfect right now," Blake chimed in, his stockbroker confidence filling the room. "We've already got several interested buyers." "I see." I watched my sister practically vibrating with excitement on the sofa. "And when was this decided?" "Well," my father cleared his throat, "we've been discussing it for a while. The proceeds will help Edith with her renovation project. That guest wing isn't going to build itself." Of course, the guest wing. Because Edith's 5-bedroom house clearly needed more space. "We know you've helped with maintenance over the years," my mother added, her voice dripping with that special kind of condescension she reserved just for me. "And we're so grateful. But Edith has a position to maintain in her community." I watched as my father pulled papers from the envelope. "This is just a formality," he said, sliding them across the coffee table. "A waiver relinquishing any claim to the proceeds." "You understand, don't you, sweetheart?" I picked up the papers, scanning the legal text I'd already memorized months ago, thanks to an inside source at the county clerk's office. My sister's perfect manicure tapped impatiently against her designer purse. "Of course," I said softly. "Do you have a pen?" Blake practically jumped to hand me his Mont Blanc, such an eager accomplice to his own downfall. I signed with a steady hand, dating it carefully. My mother clapped like I'd just performed a particularly clever trick. "Blood is thicker than water," she said, reaching for my hand. I stood up before she could touch me. Actually, the full saying is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." Interesting how meanings change when you have all the information, isn't it? They didn't understand the warning in my words. They never did. "Well, that's settled then," Edith chirped, already scrolling through interior design websites on her phone. "Mother, we simply must discuss the chandelier I found for the foyer." I left them to their planning, their voices fading as I walked to my car. Through the living room window I could see them laughing, probably already spending money they didn't technically have yet, money they'd never see. I pulled out my phone and sent a single text to Tucker, my attorney. "It's done." His response came immediately. "Filing the lien tomorrow morning. Ready?" I smiled, thinking of the decades' worth of receipts, photos, and documents sitting in my home office. Every penny I'd spent, every repair I'd funded, every email promising repayment, all meticulously catalogued and waiting for this moment. "Ready?" I typed back. They didn't know that my signature was the fuse I'd waited 10 years to light. They were about to learn that karma doesn't need to shout to be heard. Sometimes it just needs a really good paper trail. The morning after I signed the waiver, I sat in Tucker's office, surrounded by a decade of receipts and documentation spread across his mahogany desk. "This is impressive," he said, lifting a photo of me standing next to a contractor, both of us covered in dust from the attic renovation. The date stamp showed it was from 8 years ago. "Most people don't think to document everything like this." Most people trust their families, I replied, pulling out another folder. I learned early not to make that mistake. Tucker picked up an email thread from my father, promising repayment for the new heating system. "This is gold," he said, his eyes scanning the attachment showing my bank transfer. "And you kept every single receipt?" "Along with before and after photos, contractor estimates, and inspection reports." I opened my laptop, pulling up a spreadsheet. "I've tracked every penny since I was 24. My phone buzzed, Blake calling. I declined it. "He's been calling all morning," I told Tucker. "Left 3 voicemails already." "Let's hear them." I played the latest one on speaker. "Listen here, you ungrateful little Tucker hit stop. "Well," he smiled, "that'll play nicely in court. Keep saving those." My phone lit up again, this time with a text from Sawyer. "Your sister's at the county clerk's office raising hell. Want me to record?" "My friend's keeping tabs," I explained to Tucker. "She works in records." "Perfect. Now, about this refinancing document from 2018. He held up a yellowed paper. "Did you know your father actually transferred partial ownership to you during that refinance?" I sat up straighter. "What?" "Look here," he pointed to a clause. "They needed your credit to secure the loan. You're technically a co-owner, which makes that waiver you signed." "Invalid," I finished, a small smile forming. "Exactly." Tucker started organising papers into piles. "I'm filing the lien today. It'll freeze the sale proceeds until this is sorted out. Your family's going to get quite a surprise when they try to close." My phone buzzed again. My mother this time. I let it go to voicemail. "You know they're going to fight this," Tucker warned. "Let them." I pulled out one final folder. "Because I have something else. Remember when Dad refinanced? He didn't just use my credit. He used money from his company's retirement fund. Money he wasn't supposed to touch." Tucker's eyebrows shot up. "Are you sure?" I slid over bank statements and transfer records. Sawyer helped me trace it. "He's been embezzling for years, using the house to cover his tracks." "Jesus," Tucker muttered, flipping through the papers. "This isn't just a civil case anymore. This is criminal." "I know." I stood up, walking to his window. Outside, life went on as normal while I was here, preparing to detonate my family's carefully constructed facade. Do it. File everything, including the tip to his employer. Especially that. Back at my apartment that evening, I finally listened to my mother's voicemail. "Darling, this little tantrum of yours needs to stop. We raised you better than this. Blood is thicker than money, you know." I was typing out the perfect response when my doorbell rang. Edith stood there, mascara running down her face. "How could you?" she hissed, pushing past me into my living room. "Do you know what you've done?" "Blake's investors are waiting on this deal." "Funny," I said, closing the door. "I've been waiting too. 10 years, actually." "It's not fair. We need this money." "Need?" I laughed softly. "Like I needed help with the roof, the foundation, the medical bills when I fell through the rotting deck you all refused to fix. That's different. We're family." "Family?" I walked to my office, returning with a stack of papers. "Here's what family looks like to me, Edith. Every receipt, every broken promise, every time I drained my savings while you bought another designer bag." She stared at the pile, her perfect world cracking. Her phone buzzed. Probably Blake again. "You should answer that," I said quietly. "I hear the IRS doesn't like to be kept waiting." Edith's face went white. "What did you do?" I opened my door, gesturing for her to leave. "I simply showed our family what karma looks like with a paper trail." The first offer came 3 days after the lien was filed. I was having coffee with Sawyer when Blake's text arrived. "Name your price. Let's end this quietly." "They're scared," Sawyer said, peering at my phone. "Want to know what I heard at the records office today?" I nodded, stirring my latte. "Your father's company started their audit. They're going through everything with a fine-toothed comb. She leaned forward. And guess what else? Blake's been making calls to every real estate attorney in town. No one will take their case. Because of Tucker? Because the paperwork trail is too clean. They can't fight facts. My phone buzzed again, this time with a calendar invite from my mother for Sunday brunch at her favourite restaurant. Subtle, I muttered. You're not going, are you? Oh, I'm going. I accepted the invite. But I'm bringing backup. Sunday arrived with perfect weather and impeccable timing. I walked into La Maison 10 minutes late, knowing it would irritate my mother's sense of propriety. She sat at her usual table, wearing her pearls and disappointment like armour. "You're late," she said as I sat down. "Traffic?" I nodded to the waiter. "Just water, please." I ordered mimosas. "I'll pass." I placed my phone on the table, screen up. "What's this about, Mother?" She reached across the table, her hand stopping short of touching mine when she saw I was recording our conversation. "Must you?" "Recent events suggest I must." "Blood is thicker than money," she tried again, her favourite phrase wearing thin. "So is silence," and I replied. Yet here we are. The mimosas arrived. She drank hers quickly, ordering another before turning back to me. "What will it take? Name your price," like Blake asked. "We can end this now, quietly. It's not about money anymore." "Then what is it about?" Her voice rose slightly. "Revenge? Is that what you want? To destroy this family?" "Family?" I pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. "Open it." Inside were photos, dozens of them. Me on a ladder fixing gutters. Me helping contractors carry supplies. Me in the emergency room after the deck collapse, my arm in a sling. "Every time I needed family, I got excuses," I said quietly. "Every time I asked for help, I got Edith's renovation updates instead. So no, Mother, this isn't about revenge. This is about consequences." Her hands shook as she closed the folder. "Your father made mistakes. We all did. But this audit, you could ruin him." "He ruined himself. I just provided the evidence." "He's your father." And I was his daughter. Funny how that only matters now. Her third mimosa arrived. "What about Edith?" "Her marriage is her problem." I stood up, dropping cash for the drinks. "Oh, and Mother, you might want to warn her about the IRS audit. They're particularly interested in that guest wing construction. Seems some permits were creatively obtained." I was almost to the door when she called out. "We'll fight this," I turned back. "With what? The money you don't have? The lawyers who won't take your case? Or perhaps with the truth you've spent years hiding?" Later that evening, Sawyer called with an update. "You'll never guess what I found. Remember that contractor who worked on their house last year? He kept records of every conversation. Your father asked him to backdate permits and inflate costs for tax purposes." "Forward everything to Tucker," I said, adding another piece to the puzzle. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "This is Leah Schmidt, Edith's attorney. We need to talk." "They're lawyers reaching out," I told Sawyer. "This should be interesting." "Be careful," she warned. "Schmidt's known for playing dirty." I typed back a simple response. "My office tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bring everything you have." Another text from Blake popped up. "You think you're so clever? Wait until you see what we found about you." I screenshot it and sent it to Tucker with 3 words. "They're getting desperate." The truth about family is that it's like a house. Its strength isn't in its facade but in its foundation. Mine had been rotting for years, held together by my sweat and savings while they added decorative shutters and granite countertops. Now it was time to let it collapse under its own weight. Leah Schmidt arrived at my office exactly on time, her designer suit a sharp contrast to my minimalist workspace. She carried a thick leather briefcase and an expression that suggested she'd rather be anywhere else. "I'll be direct," she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "Your family's finances are a mess." I'm aware. She pulled out a stack of documents. No, you don't understand. It's worse than you think. Blake's company is leveraged to the hilt. The margin calls are starting to come in. And this concerns me because, she leaned forward, when this house sale falls through, and it will, they're going to lose everything, not just the house, everything. I kept my face neutral, still waiting for the part where this is my problem. Look, she sighed, I've been doing this for 15 years. I know when clients are lying to me. And yours? She tapped the papers. They've been lying about everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Sawyer. IRS just showed up at your parents' house. Perfect timing. Ms. Schmidt, I said, why are you really here? She glanced at her watch, then the door, before lowering her voice. Because I found something while reviewing the property records, something that could implicate me if I don't report it. The falsified permits? Bigger. She pulled out another file. Your mother had an affair. With Blake's father? The room went silent. I felt my heart skip a beat, but kept my expression unchanged. The timing, she continued. Well, let's just say Edith and Blake might want to reconsider their relationship. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Tucker. Your father just tried to access his frozen accounts. Bank flagged it as suspicious activity. The dominoes were falling faster now. What do you want? I asked Leah. To switch sides. She closed her briefcase. I'm not going down with this ship, and I have evidence that could help you. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Edith stormed in, her face red with fury. The IRS! She screamed. Really, Poppy? They're at Mum and Dad's right now. Edith, Leah stood up, you shouldn't be here. Stay out of this. Edith slammed her hands on my desk. Do you know what you've done? Blake's investors are pulling out. The contractors are threatening liens on our house. Everything is falling apart. I remained seated, calm. Karma's interesting that way. Karma? You think this is karma? She laughed hysterically. This is you being a vindictive bitch because you're jealous of my life. Mrs. Walton, Leah interrupted, I strongly advise you to leave. Why? So you can help her destroy us too? Edith turned on her lawyer. We paid you to fix this. I can't fix fraud, Leah said quietly, or tax evasion. Or, she glanced at me, other complications. My phone lit up with a news alert. Local executive under investigation for embezzlement. My father's company had gone public with the audit. Edith, I said softly, you should go home. Blake might need you. Blake? She grabbed my phone, reading the alert. Her face went pale. Oh, God. I tried to warn you, Leah said. All of you, this isn't something money can fix. Edith sank into a chair, her designer purse sliding to the floor. What do we do? We? I stood up finally. There is no we anymore. There hasn't been for a long time. My phone rang, Tucker again. I answered on speaker. The IRS wants to meet. They found something big in your parents' tax returns. Multiple properties under shell companies, all tied to your father's embezzlement. Edith's head snapped up. Properties? What properties? Oh, I said, you didn't know. Dad's been busy, very busy. I turned back to the phone. Schedule the meeting, Tucker, and send everything to the SEC. You're going to prison, Edith whispered. All of us. We're going to prison. No, I picked up my bag, ready to leave. You're going to face consequences. There's a difference. As I walked out, Leah followed me. I'll have everything on your desk tomorrow morning, she said. Every document, every conversation, every secret. Good, I replied. Because this is just the beginning. The morning after the IRS visit, my father showed up at my apartment unannounced. He looked smaller somehow, his expensive suit wrinkled, his normally perfect hair dishevelled. 5 minutes, I said, leaving him standing in the doorway. Poppy, please. His voice cracked. I can explain everything. Explain what? the embezzlement, the shell companies. Or maybe how you use my credit to cover your tracks? He stepped inside, pulling an envelope from his jacket. I can make this right. I have access to accounts, offshore accounts. We can make a deal. I hit record on my phone. Are you trying to bribe me to obstruct a federal investigation? He froze, finally noticing the phone. Turn that off. Like you turned off your conscience when you stole from your employees' retirement funds. I did what I had to do. He ran his hands through his hair. For the family, for our reputation, for Edith's. For Edith, I laughed bitterly. It's always been for Edith, hasn't it? My phone buzzed. Sawyer. Blake just got served with SEC papers at his office. It's hitting the news. Speaking of family, I turned on the TV, where a breaking news banner showed Blake being escorted out of his building. Looks like your son-in-law's having a rough morning. My father sank onto my couch, watching the scene unfold. The reporter was detailing allegations of securities fraud, mentioning connections to other ongoing investigations. Turn it off, he whispered. No. I sat across from him. You're going to watch. Just like I had to watch for years while you funneled money into Edith's life, while I worked myself to exhaustion, keeping your house from falling apart. The doorbell rang. Tucker walked in without waiting for an answer. Richard, he nodded to my father. I assume you've seen the news? You can't prove anything. My father straightened his spine, a flash of his old arrogance returning. Actually, Tucker set his briefcase down, we can prove everything. Your daughter's quite thorough with documentation, must run in the family, considering all those detailed records we found in your offshore accounts. My father's face went white. How did you— The same way we found out about the affair, I cut in. People talk when empires fall. Affair? His head snapped up. What affair? Oh, I smiled coldly. Mother didn't tell you. Maybe you should ask Blake's father about it. Though he might be busy right now, what with the SEC crawling through his records too. Another news alert flashed across the TV. Edith's face this time, running from reporters outside her house. The DA wants to meet, Tucker said, checking his phone. They're offering deals to anyone willing to talk first. My father stood up abruptly. I need to make some calls. Your phones are probably being monitored, Tucker mentioned casually. Standard procedure in fraud cases. The doorbell rang again. This time it was my mother, her face streaked with tears. The accounts are frozen, she said, ignoring my father. All of them, even my personal ones. Joint accounts usually are in fraud investigations, Tucker explained. Fraud? She turned to my father. Richard, what did you do? What did I do? He laughed hysterically. What about you and James? Want to tell me about that? My mother's hand flew to her throat. How? Karma, I said softly, has a funny way of revealing everything. My phone rang. Leah Schmidt. I put it on speaker. The SEC just seized Blake's computers. They found emails. Hundreds of them. Your father's name is all over them. You recorded everything, didn't you? My father accused, finally understanding. All these years you were building a case. No, I stood up. I was protecting myself. The case built itself. We can fix this, my mother pleaded. As a family? Family? I walked to my office, returning with a photo album. Here's the only family I ever had. I opened it to show receipts, work orders, and photos of me fixing their house. The plumber who helped me when I broke my arm, the electrician who brought me soup when I had the flu, the contractor who remembered my birthday when all of you forgot. Tucker's phone buzzed. DA's here, they're ready to talk deals. Go, I told my parents. Try to save what's left of your reputations, but remember this, you taught me that blood is thicker than water. You just forgot that ink is thicker than both. The story broke on a Tuesday morning. Local family's financial empire crumbles amid fraud allegations splashed across every local news outlet. I watched from my office as my family's carefully constructed facade crumbled in real time. "You might want to see this," Sawyer said, dropping a stack of newspapers on my desk. The headlines were brutal. "Executive's daughter exposes decade of fraud," "Society couple faces federal investigation," "Family fortune built on lies." My phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. Reporters, distant relatives, even old high school classmates, everyone wanted the inside scoop. "Your sister's trending on Twitter," Sawyer noted, scrolling through her phone. "Someone filmed her meltdown at the country club." I pulled up the video. Edith, mascara running, screaming at Blake in the parking lot. "You promised me! You promised this would never happen!" Tucker walked in, looking pleased. "The DA's office just called. Your father's lawyer reached out about a plea deal." "And Blake?" "Still claiming innocence, but—" Tucker smiled. "His business partner just turned state's evidence, brought in boxes of documents." My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of my mother sitting alone at La Maison, 3 empty mimosa glasses in front of her. "She's been there all morning," Sawyer said, "telling anyone who'll listen that you're destroying the family." "No," I replied, "I just exposed what was already destroyed." My office door burst open. Blake stormed in, his usually perfect appearance dishevelled, eyes wild. "You think you've won?" he snarled. "You think this makes you better than us?" Tucker stepped between us. "Mister—" "Walton, you shouldn't be here." "Shut up!" Blake slammed his hands on my desk. "Do you know what you've done? My investors, my reputation—" "Your fraud," I finished calmly. "Your lies, or perhaps you're worried about the DNA test results." He froze. "What?" "Oh, didn't Leah tell you? The affair between your father and my mother? Well, let's just say the timing raises some interesting questions about your relationship with Edith." The colour drained from his face. "You're lying. Like you lied about the investment returns, or like my father lied about the embezzlement?" I stood up. "The results come back tomorrow. Might want to prepare yourself." "You bitch," he whispered. "You calculated, cold-hearted—" "Careful," Tucker warned. "Everything you say is being recorded." My phone buzzed. Another news alert. "Breaking. Federal agents raid local investment firm." Below was a photo of agents carrying boxes from Blake's office. "Your computer's in one of those boxes," I said softly, "along with every email you sent about the fake accounts, every document you forged, every lie you told." Blake's knees buckled. He grabbed my desk for support. "Sir," Tucker said firmly, "I suggest you leave before we call security." "This isn't over," Blake threatened, but his voice shook. "Actually," I picked up my phone, showing him the screen. "It is. The SEC just suspended your trading license. Effective immediately." He staggered out, nearly colliding with Leah in the doorway. "Perfect timing," she said, watching him go. "I just filed the DNA test request with the court. Should be interesting evidence in the fraud case." "How's Edith taking it?" Sawyer asked. "She's not." Leah set down her briefcase. "She checked into a wellness centre this morning. Complete breakdown." My phone chimed with an email notification. It was from my mother. "I know you think you've won, but you've lost something precious. Family." I typed back a single line. "Some of us didn't inherit money. We built roofs, and then watched others set them on fire." "The court date's set," Tucker announced, checking his calendar. 2 weeks from today. Your father's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal, but the DA wants to make an example of this case." "Good," I said, looking out my office window at the city below. It's time everyone saw the truth. Sawyer touched my arm. "Are you ready for this to go public? Really public?" I thought about the decade of receipts, the countless nights working on a house that was never truly mine, the birthday parties I watched through windows while fixing their plumbing. "Yes," I replied, "because sometimes the truth needs an audience to set things right." The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when I arrived. Camera flashes burst like lightning as Tucker guided me through the chaos. Inside, the marble halls echoed with whispers and shuffling feet. "Ready?" Tucker asked, adjusting his tie. I smoothed down my grey suit, practical, understated, exactly what they'd never expected from me. "Ready." The courtroom doors opened. My family sat on the opposite side, my father in a rumpled suit, my mother clutching her pearls, Edith fresh from her wellness centre stay, looking thin and haunted. Blake sat separately with his legal team, refusing to meet anyone's eye. Judge Martinez called the court to order. The proceedings began with opening statements, each revelation hitting like hammer blows in the quiet room. "Your Honour," the DA began, "this case isn't just about financial fraud, it's about a systematic betrayal of trust, familial, professional, and legal." My father's attorney tried to paint him as a desperate man trying to maintain his family's lifestyle. The judge's expression remained stone cold. Then Leah took the stand. My family's faces turned ashen as their own lawyer began dismantling their defence. "Yes, Your Honour," she testified, "I have documented evidence of Mr. Walton and Mr. Richard actively conspiring to falsify investment records. The emails are quite explicit." "Objection!" Blake's attorney jumped up. "Overruled," Judge Martinez said firmly. "Continue, Ms. Schmidt." Leah pulled out a thick folder. "I also have evidence of undeclared properties hidden under shell companies purchased with embezzled funds." My mother swayed in her seat. Edith began to cry silently. The DNA test results came next. The court clerk handed them to the judge, who read them silently before looking at Blake and Edith. "In light of this evidence," the judge said, "Mr. Walton and Mrs. Walton's marriage licence is hereby nullified due to consanguinity." Edith collapsed into hysterics. Blake vomited into a wastebasket. Then it was my turn to testify. "Ms. Poppy," the DA began, "please tell the court about your involvement with the family property." I opened my own folder, a decade of receipts, photos, and broken promises laid bare. "I paid for everything," I said clearly, "every repair, every upgrade, every emergency fix. I have documentation for all of it." "And were you ever compensated?" "No." I was given a waiver to sign away my rights instead. "Your Honour," Tucker stood, "I'd like to present evidence that my client was actually a legal co-owner of the property due to a refinancing agreement in 2018, making that waiver invalid." My father's face crumpled. He knew what was coming. The evidence mounted: forged permits, backdated documents, tax fraud. Each revelation another nail in their coffin. "Does the defendant wish to make a statement?" Judge Martinez asked my father. He stood shakily. I did what I thought was best for my family." "No," I interrupted, causing a stir in the courtroom. "You did what was best for your image." The judge asked if I wanted to make a final statement. I stood, facing not the judge, but my family. "I want what I earned, nothing more, nothing less." Judge Martinez took only 15 minutes to deliver her verdict. The sentences fell like dominoes. My father, 8 years for embezzlement and tax fraud. Blake, 5 years for securities fraud. My mother, 2 years probation and hefty fines. Edith, community service and mandatory counselling. Additionally, the judge continued, all proceeds from the sale of the family property are to be awarded to Miss Poppy, along with damages and legal fees. Outside, reporters swarmed again. Through their questions, I heard a commotion. Blake was being led away in handcuffs, screaming about appeals and revenge. "Poppy!" my mother called out. "Please, we can still fix this." I turned to her, cameras clicking frantically. "No, Mother, some things can't be fixed. They can only be rebuilt." Tucker guided me to his car. "Congratulations," he said. "It's over." But as we drove away, I watched my family fragment on the courthouse steps. My father being led to a prisoner transport, my mother collapsing into Edith's arms, Blake disappearing into a police car. "No," I said quietly. "It's not over. It's just honest now." My phone buzzed with a text from Sawyer. "Local news wants an exclusive. Your story's going national." I smiled, thinking of all the other families out there, held together by lies and manipulation. "Tell them yes," I replied. "Some stories need to be heard." The real estate agent handed me the keys to my childhood home. "Congratulations," she said. "The new owners can close whenever you're ready." I walked through the empty rooms one last time. The walls were bare now, stripped of family photos that had hidden the cracks beneath. In the living room, where I'd signed away my rights that day, sunlight streamed through windows I'd replaced years ago. My phone buzzed, a news alert about my father's case. He'd started his sentence last week, trading designer suits for prison orange. Blake was next, due to surrender himself tomorrow. "Ready to go?" Sawyer asked from the doorway. "Almost." I climbed the stairs to my old bedroom. A small door in the closet caught my eye, something I'd forgotten about. Inside, I found a dusty shoebox filled with childhood memories. At the bottom was a letter, yellowed with age, in my grandmother's handwriting. It was dated just before she died. "My dearest Poppy," it began, "this house should have been yours. I tried to make it right in my will, but your father, well, you know how he can be. Remember this, true inheritance isn't what's given to you. It's what you build yourself." My phone rang. Tucker. "The new property just cleared inspection," he said. "You can start renovations whenever you're ready." I smiled, thinking of my plans. The old Victorian I'd bought would become a shelter for people rebuilding their lives after family betrayal. A place where broken foundations could be made strong again. The doorbell rang downstairs. I found Edith on the porch, looking smaller without her designer clothes and perfect makeup. "I didn't know where else to go," she said quietly. "Why are you here?" "Because you're the only one who ever told me the truth." She wrapped her arms around herself, even when it hurt. I studied my sister, really looked at her for the first time in years. Truth hurts less than lies in the end. "Mother checked into rehab yesterday," she said. "Real rehab, not one of those spa places. She's finally facing things." "And you?" "I'm selling everything. The house, the cars, all of it." She pulled out a business card. "I'm seeing a therapist. She's helping me understand why we all became what we became." She nodded, tears forming. "I found my own grandmother's letter. About the house, about you. I'm so sorry, Poppy." "Sorry doesn't fix things, Edith." "I know." She straightened her shoulders. "That's why I'm here. I want to help. With your shelter project. Not with money, I don't have any left anyway, but with work. Real work." I considered her offer. "It won't be easy. No shortcuts, no special treatment." "I know. I'm ready to learn." My phone buzzed again. Sawyer sending photos of the Victorians' renovation plans. In one corner, she'd sketched a garden. "For new beginnings," her note read. "Start with the garden," I told Edith. "We'll see how you do with growing things from scratch." She smiled, a real smile, not the practiced one from our family photos. "Thank you." I locked the front door of our childhood home for the last time. The sold sign swayed gently in the breeze. "What happens now?" Edith asked. "Now?" I handed the keys to the real estate agent. "We build something honest." Back in my car, I found one last text from my mother. "I understand now what you did, what we did. I hope someday—" I didn't finish reading it. Some messages don't need responses. Some lessons have to be lived. Instead, I opened my grandmother's letter again, reading the final lines. "Remember, my dear girl, the strongest houses aren't built with money or status. They're built with truth, brick by brick, day by day." I smiled, thinking of the Victorian waiting for renovation, of Edith's first attempts at honest work, of all the broken foundations waiting to be rebuilt. They told me to fend for myself. It turns out I was never alone. I had the truth, and that's all I ever needed.